Hello, everyone. Welcome again to the show today. It's another week, another episode, another guest. And I'm excited as well to introduce or have her introduce herself to you. But before that, please hit that subscribe button and share so that we can grow the channel. And thank you for your support for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
My name is Clementine Msafiri. I live in Grand Rapids. I've been here for about 21 years. I work as a mental health therapist in a middle school. I have a dog. I don't know much to say about me, but I'm pretty sure I'll say more as we talk.
What's your dog's name?
My dog's name is Rafiki. Rafiki, which means friend in Swahili.
Yeah.
A lot of your subscribers will probably know that.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody should meet Rafiki as well. It's really awesome. Is it a she or she?
He.
It's a he. Okay. Just making sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Clementine, what is mental health? Especially for the people who do not know what these people hear mental health. But what is really mental health?
Yeah, that's a very broad question. So it's simple. Mental health is your social, psychological, and emotional well-being. How you think, how you feel, and how you act has everything to do with your mental health. It's simple as that.
And who are people who experience mental health? Is there a specific group or mental health is experienced by anybody?
Yeah, that's also a very good question. When it comes to mental health, every single human being has a brain, right? Therefore, mental health is a concept. Mental health is important to everyone. I know that there's a stigma when it comes to mental health in different groups specifically, but I know a lot of you probably heard this before, but your mental health is just as important as your physical health. Because your brain is a part of your body. Therefore, taking care of your brain is taking care of your body. It's just as important. And I know there's also a fine line between mental health and mental illness. And sometimes when we say mental health, we don't know if they're talking about mental illness or mental health. But today on this podcast, from my understanding, we're talking about mental health, which is different from mental illness. Mental health is more solution focused, like how can we take care of our brain? How can we take care of ourselves so it doesn't lead to a mental health illness?
Wow. Actually, that's a really good point because I think a lot of people, especially us from Africa, when we hear about mental health, we think about mental illness. So maybe just because you brought that up, can you actually maybe distinguish it a little bit more so people can understand, please?
I would love to, because when I first started my program and I was taking a clinical diagnosis and mental illness class, I used to think mental health and mental illness, I didn't really understand the difference. But after learning more about it, I fully understand now, and it's pretty easy to understand. For example, when it comes to physical health, when you're sick, when you're physically ill, and you're talking about your physical health, you're focusing on your physical health. So if me and the seeker are talking about physical health, it doesn't mean we're talking about physical illness, we're talking about physical health. That's two different topics. The same with mental health. Mental health and mental illness are two different things. Mental health, taking care of your mental health prevents mental illness. So if you neglect your mental health, you are more prone to have a mental illness. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people who are struggling with mental illness and they are in denial because they don't believe in mental health, which doesn't make sense because how can you not believe in mental health when you have a brain?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's like a difference with mental health and mental illness. And today we're focusing on mental health.
Yes.
Take care of your mental health to prevent mental
illness. Yes, correct. Wow. So with the physical health, I know what to do. I can go to the gym, lift heavy weights. I can go for a run every evening or every morning or however schedule I am. So help me and my viewers to understand, how do we take care of mental health? How do we take care of ourselves?
There's so many ways we can take care of our mental health. And there's so many ways that our mental health is affected by the ordinary things we do, like drinking water, eating, sleeping, talking to people. That's so what you do for your physical health, it's also for your mental health, because like I said, mental health and physical health go hand in hand. So like exercise, for example, you go to the gym, you lift weight, you go for a run. Yes, you're taking care of your physical health. That also is killing one bird with two stones. No, what's the saying?
Killing two birds with one stone. Yes.
When you go to the gym, not only are you taking care of your physical health, you're also taking care of your mental health tremendously. That's actually one of the top coping strategies for mental health, physical exercise. And it could be as easy as going for a small walk.
Yes. Wow. So it's really things that actually they are within our reach. They are things that we can do since now, from my understanding, is actually you can't separate physical health with mental health. Probably you could, but they go hand in hand.
You shouldn't.
Yes.
You shouldn't. And then unfortunately, I think I'm going to speak from me personally. I come from a background where mental health and physical health are two separate things. And mental health is often just neglected and stigmatized, and you don't talk about it. And when you do want to talk about it, there's that stigma, and people think you're crazy and something's wrong with you. So we just don't talk about it. But just because you don't talk about something, it doesn't mean you're not being affected. Okay? So
that's correct.
Because you deny something and you don't talk about it, it does not mean it's not affecting you. Talking about it is what's going to bring solutions.
Yes.
So starting with physical health and mental health is together. I think that's the beginning of finding solutions. And I think a lot of us, and by us Africans who come to the United States from different African countries, I noticed that the way we view mental health and the way that mental health is viewed in the communities that we move to is different. And I'm here to bridge that gap.
I know you have worked with a lot of refugees. Is there any distinctions on how refugees view mental health from other immigrants, still from Africa, but who came maybe in different status, like a student or green card?
Okay, that's a very good question. First, I just want to talk a little bit more about refugees.
Yes, please.
So we're on the same page, because sometimes when we talk about refugees, some people might not understand what that means.
Yes.
Especially when you say refugees, immigrants, are they the same? How are they different? It's confusing.
It is, yeah.
My family moved here as refugees, and I have a passion for refugees. And I love working with that group, and I think it's because I can easily empathize with that group because I lived as a refugee and I fully understand what it looks like and what it feels like to be a refugee. And every refugee does not have the same story, but there's a lot of similarities. So refugees are immigrants.
Yes.
They move here from a different country. They're immigrants, but every immigrant is not a refugee.
That's correct.
Yeah. So
yes.
Some people move here as non-refugees. So a refugee is an immigrant. But there's a big difference between refugees and immigrants. So refugees are not moving here because they make that decision to move here. They were forced out of their country due to war, persecution. Just a lot. They were forced out of the country. They don't have a lot of autonomy on their life, really. And refugees are probably the most vulnerable group I've worked with. A lot of refugees, if not most, just experience a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder because, they were forced out of the country. And during that process, as you can imagine, they lost family. They've seen a lot of things that were traumatizing. And these things are normal to them. They might not see it as trauma because that's what normal life is to them. That's what a refugee goes through. But just because it's normal to you or it's a norm, it doesn't mean it's okay. And it doesn't mean that you should just accept it and live with the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. So I've noticed that a lot of refugees do suffer from PTSD, and they might not know what to do about it, and they might not be aware that they are being affected because everyone else around them is going through similar things.
Yes.
So that's one way I've seen refugees struggle.
Yes.
So that post-traumatic stress is probably one of the biggest mental illness that I've seen in that community.
And then so that a lot of these experiences is from the country of origin through maybe either internally or displaced, or even sometimes being refugees in different countries. And so with that, you say they go through a lot of trauma in their countries of origin. And even if they move, let's say, to a neighboring country, they are not like fully accepted. So even maybe that even worsens their case.
Absolutely, because once they move to a different country,
yes,
that's where they become refugees.
Yes.
In their own countries, they were citizens of that country. They had own land, home, they had a job. Just ordinary life like us right here. We go to work, we have a job, and then all of a sudden something happens, a war, something big that's forcing us to leave the country. So we are leaving the country with only things you can actually carry.
Yes.
You're not carrying your house with you. You're not carrying your possessions like horses or cows or goats, whatever they had. You're not carrying all that with you. So you're moving to a different country that's foreign. And in that country, you're not a citizen of that country. Therefore, you're going to a refugee camp. And living in a refugee camp is just horrific. It's like the most hopeless place you can be. Because you're living in this place, you don't know how long you'll be there. You are a refugee, which means you have no home. You do not belong there. And you're just sitting there waiting to be resettled to a place where you don't know. So I can't imagine how much toll that takes on your mental health, especially when you can't talk about it. Because also if the physical health is there too, just everything, they're dealing with so much. And then, so that's a lot of issues there too. And then they get resettled to their new home, which is another thing in itself, being resettled and assimilating into a new culture. There's the language barrier, there's a cultural difference. There's just so much that they go through and deal with that would affect their mental health.
Yes. And now that actually you brought even the issue of being in a refugee camp. Do you mind just at least giving us a glimpse of like how life is in a refugee camp? So just at least we can better understand the refugees, please.
Yeah, so I was very young when my family lived there. I was young, so it would look different for me. My experience would be different than, let's say, my father's experience, because he was an adult. Being a parent in a refugee camp, I can't even fathom having to care for other little humans with no job, with relying on an agency to feed you. I can't imagine, but my experience is in a refugee camp is sometimes my friends here, they go camping, and I've been camping before. It's not my favorite, but my friends talked me into doing it. And when I went camping, it reminded me of a refugee camp.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so you're sleeping like in a tent. Okay, so some refugee camps, you sleep in a tent. Some refugee camps are better than others, more resources. The refugee camp that we lived in, we had small homes, no electricity, obviously, public restroom, public showers. The food came from an agency, the UN. Everything we consumed came from other people. So we relied on someone else to take care of us. Limited jobs, limited education. So it's supposed to be a temporary place where you're waiting to be resettled into your new home. So time in a refugee camp it's horrible.
Yes. Is there like, would you say, I would think that there would be no sufficient security. Is there like crime that goes on, I will assume?
Yes. There's no police.
Yes.
You cannot call 911 in a refugee camp. Definitely, yeah. It's scary. It's a scary place to be, and it's a place that you don't want to be.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And then you also mentioned that, like, being a refugee camp, you're waiting to be resettled. That's the word I was looking for. Yes. And it can take a long time, you said. Would you say 2 years? How long is how long?
So my family moved here in June 2003.
Yes.
That's 21 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That same camp that we came from, there are still people living there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, until today. So generations live in refugee camps. Some people will never be resettled. A very small percentage of refugees get resettled eventually.
Wow.
A very small percent.
That's difficult. That's really hard.
Yes.
And the fact that a lot of these, they still have memories of where they got displaced from. They left everything, their land, maybe their cows, their goats, maybe they had a farm with their family. And I'm assuming even a lot of refugees too, maybe their families got separated.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fact. For sure, they were separated.
Yeah. Wow.
And also education. I know when we moved here, some degrees do not transfer because the way the country that you move to, the country that's resettling you might not accept that your degree as valid because of the country that you received your degree in.
Yes.
Therefore, you have to start over. Either you get a job in a factory and do that for the rest of your life, or you go back to school. I don't know how you're going to afford school and taking care of your family. So it's a lot of things they have to navigate in this country that is affecting them mentally. I know we will talk more about it, but having access to resources, that's tough. And even them admitting it that they're struggling is tough in itself.
What would you say makes it possible that some refugees get resettled sooner than others? Is there like a particular criteria that people will decide who we're gonna resettle first?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I don't know all the answers. But I worked for Bethany Christian Services, which is the local refugee resettlement agency. So I learned a lot when I worked with them. Back then, when I was a kid, when I moved here, I had no clue what was going on. I was just listening to my dad, doing what he wanted me to do this, go there. But once I got here and learned more about refugees and started working with refugees, then I understood more about like just the process that they go through. With resettlement, like when you move into this country where you're going to seek refuge, you have to be registered as a refugee. Okay, so you do that. When you register a refugee, you're registering your family, and whoever your family is, so immediate family, and you guys are one case. Every time you have a new family member, you add them to your case, which could delay your case. Anything can affect your case. Anything can affect it, and I know they prioritize those who need medical attention. They would prioritize the most vulnerable.
Yes.
Everybody's vulnerable in a refugee camp, but when they prioritize those who might need immediate attention or resettlement. With my family, honestly,
yes,
it was God.
Yeah.
How we got resettled. We were one of the first families to arrive here as refugees.
Yes.
And I don't know how it happened because my dad is healthy, my mom is healthy, we're healthy, and I think it was ordained for us to get here early. Yeah.
And we celebrate you guys being here, regardless of how it was decided. Seems a lot of part of it is out of the refugees' controls. Because if it wasn't within their control, they will all move to safer places and safer countries.
I agree.
Yeah. So I've had a privilege, I don't know if it's a privilege or whatever it is, but I'll consider it as a privilege that while I was at Hope College, since I know Swahili, I remember there were 2 families that moved to Holland area. And since they knew Swahili, and there was another language that they knew, but I don't remember. But in that area, I was one of the few people who knew Swahili. So I remember getting called and helping like with the translation. And it was like in 2 different cases. One was a family, and then one was actually I believe that boy was a boy, but was living with an American family. I don't know if he got adopted once he moved here or how that happened. But one of the challenges that I saw was that they all don't know how to speak English, or at least proper English. And they have moved to Holland, whereby there's barely African people or people who know Swahili. Is this a common occurrence?
Okay, so just so I understand the story that you're sharing a little bit, did they move as minors without their family?
So the one case, the family had a dad and a mom and kids. The other case was just a boy in high school or middle school, one of those. But he only spoke Swahili. He probably spoke French, but I couldn't understand it. So
Adopted?
that's one thing I don't remember, because I do know he was living with a Caucasian family. But from my understanding, he came from a refugee camp, so he was a refugee. Okay. So I don't know if he came to America as a refugee with his family and then either got a foster family. I'm not 100% sure. Mm-hmm. Only what I know is I got called in and I was helping him transition into whatever that grade was. I think it was the high school or middle school, one of those years.
Yeah, there's a lot of cases like that where we have minors move to the country by themselves, and sometimes we call them unaccompanied minors. They're just by themselves. Maybe their parents were killed in a war and they have nobody else to take care of them. They can prioritize those minors to be able to be resettled early because they're vulnerable. They're considered the most vulnerable. And I think we have amazing people living among us where they're willing to receive a kid and house them and feed them. But also it can be a struggle when this kid is coming to a community where there's no one who understands them or look like them. Unfortunately, this is common. Within the refugee population, a lot of them come in groups. So it's family, mom, dad, and the kids or their parents or whatever, grandma. Most of them are coming in as group because they register as a case, a family.
Yes.
And sometimes as soon as you turn 18, you're not with your family because you're an adult.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah.
So your family can be resettled and you stay behind because you're over 18.
Then should that be considered as a family separation? Which is not a good thing.
It is family separation.
Yes.
And that's common.
Wow.
That's really common. So refugees get here and they still have family back home.
Because to be honest, I can't imagine at age 18 be separated from my family and not knowing if I'll be able to see them again, especially in a controlled situation. It's one thing if I'm forced out of my family by war, but it's another thing that my family got resettled and now I got separated from them just like that.
Yeah. But also, there's hope that you'll also be resettled because you're also a refugee.
Oh, gotcha.
I hope that we don't know when you'll be resettled. It could take years, it could take months, it could take weeks. But also, some people are just living life in a refugee camp. Life doesn't stop. Life moves on. So people get married, people have kids, people try to go to school. As you wait, people are not sitting there
just waiting. Yeah.
Actually working.
Yes.
And once you're here and you have a family back, then you can, they have family reunification program where they reunite families. And Bethany had that program as well, where if you're here and you have a family member back home who has a case, you can advocate for them to join you. And they obviously go through the federal legal process. So let me tell you a little bit about my family.
Please.
We moved here in 2003 of June. And my grandma stayed behind. And that was devastating because we lived with our grandma. She was family. She was like taking care of us. She was like a mom.
Right.
And we had to be separated from her. And we came here and she stayed. That's family separation.
It is, yeah.
If you look at it, she's my grandma, so they count her. She has her own case. She's not on our case. So we were resettled and she stayed behind. And that was devastating for us and for her. She struggled not having us around.
I can imagine.
It took 10 years for her to finally get here.
Wow.
10 years. We waited 10 years for her.
Wow.
We waited 10 years to be resettled.
That's a long time.
Very long time. And now she's here and life is great. But just that 10 years of waiting, of the mental torment that she went through, that we went through, that's very rough. And that's something that we don't talk much about, but that's something that's common and that's normal in the refugee community.
Yes. So with that, let me just ask, and maybe hopefully it's not out of ignorance, but I just need to know. So when you guys got here, right? I'm assuming once you arrive, you get a green card, right? And then, okay, yes. But what I'm trying to get to is it advantageous because now you can maybe file for your grandmother at some point, but just her waiting to be resettled as a refugee? If you can speak into that a little bit, and then you can add what you wanted to add.
Yeah, excuse me. When refugees come or migrate or come to this country, they obviously have I forget the actual status. I-90, I think it's I-90. I'm not sure the name, but it's only good for a year. And once it's expired, you can apply for your green card within a year.
Within a year, yes.
Your green card is good for 5 years.
Okay.
And then after that 5 years, you can apply for a citizenship. So refugees are legal immigrants, and they have the right to be here, and they're not illegal. And I hate saying that term illegal, but it's not. They're not undocumented. They are resettled in a legal way, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. Yes, yeah. It makes sense. Yeah.
And they have a process. There's a process, and they have the chance to eventually become American citizens, and that happens. When we arrived, 5 years, we all got our green card, and my dad got his citizenship. And because we're under 18, so if your parent get a citizenship and you're under 18, you automatically get a citizenship. So I didn't.
Nice, yeah, to go through all that test.
That test was hard. Even like the common American might not know the answers to those questions.
And just while you are there, for somebody who comes here as not educated as a refugee, that must have been like really, if you are saying like some of these questions, they are really hard questions.
Yeah.
How are they refugees manage actually to pass the exam?
All right, it's really tough. So you just have to practice and study. But we have a lot of refugees who might not have a formal education, who did not get the opportunity to go to school, and some of them are not able to read or write. And there are other ways you can maneuver that. For example, my grandma, she came here as an old lady. She's 83 now, but she's not able to take that test.
Yes.
So there are ways to navigate that. Physicians and and also there's PTSD that affects your mental health, and learning while dealing with the mental illness is tough.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yes.
Yeah. So say you with a professional like a psychologist, and they diagnose you with PTSD, and they advocate for you that this client is not able to take this exam because this, then that could be a way for you to also obtain your citizenship. So there are multiple ways, but a lot of refugees do have to take that test.
Yes.
Whether they can speak English or not.
Oh no, yes.
Yeah. But it's something that they have to, and it's something that can be a struggle as well.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah. Wow. So the at least from my observation with that family I was talking about, I looked at it and I was like, wow, like this actually can even worsen their mental health, just coming because as Africans, and I'm pretty sure even immigrants from other nations, they have this mental picture of what America is. And you're thinking once we get there, it's going to be milk and honey.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Yeah. And then it's a whole different thing once you get here. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that because with that family, I just saw their struggle. Even though they had a church that was supporting them, it was still a struggle because the people didn't understand the language. The communication was a big barrier. Mm-hmm. And so if they needed maybe a specific thing and I'm not available, I'm just wondered how they are able to communicate that. Mm-hmm. Do you think the transition from moving from Africa as a refugee to here worsens the mental health in any way? Or people are just like, yay, we are in America and now it's all good?
Yeah. I think there are two perspective to that. I'm going to share my own opinion, okay?
Yes.
I think it does worsen your mental health. But also, these people are finally able to have a job, have an income, live in a home with electricity,
yes,
water. Nobody's bothering them. They live in a country where there's freedom.
yes,
Call the police. In a way, they feel like, okay, they have arrived. They have gotten to the promised land,
yes,
if you will. The place where they waited many years to be resettled. But as long as you're on this planet, nothing's perfect. There's no country that is just 100% peaceful.
I agree.
Refugees still struggle when they get here. Okay, so there's that language barrier. Imagine not being able to communicate. That's tough.
It's tough, yeah.
The language barrier. There is the trauma that you dealt with. Seeing people killed in front of you, losing family members. That's not normal things. And you live in a country among people who have no clue. That's
right.
You have to navigate the system and you have this experience. There's a cultural barrier as well.
Yes, yes.
American culture, and let's say they're in this culture and the American culture, they're so different. The whole shaking your hand. So usually when we meet people every time we greet someone, you shake their hand. So you know how casually Americans are like, hi,
yes.
Hi. So we go to them and shake hands. And we also hug a lot. You don't do that here. So things get awkward. So how do you greet someone? Like, you don't have to interact. You cannot speak. You go to work and people don't understand. And you're tired, but you don't want to complain because you're finally in a country where you can work and you have money. It's hard and life is tough. The education system is so different from maybe what they're used to. And there's also just the resettlement process too. So the refugees, they arrive, they're resettled, and they have 3 months. They have assistance for 3 months, and after 90 days, they're on their own. It doesn't take 3 months for you to understand.
Yeah, that's a very short time.
Very short time. That's how resettlement usually go, 90 days. So there are programs that would prolong the resettlement process for families who might need it, but those are limited, and there's not a lot of those. So it's a lot of rushing to get you to be independent.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's a very short period of a time, three months. You say 3 months, right? 90 days, yeah. Wow.
And I wanted to add as well, if you were to ask an ordinary refugee family if they're happy to be here, of course they are. Because life here is probably 10 times better than it was in a refugee camp. But does it mean they're not struggling? No, they're still struggling.
They're still struggling, yes.
The struggle looks different, totally different than it looked in the refugee camp. And most of them are not going to say, oh, I'm struggling this way, because they're just feel so fortunate to finally get here and to be among the few who were resettled. So a lot of refugees too, they're grateful, and they're just like, they're just grateful to be here.
Yes.
And they don't want to express a lot of concerns, but they should.
No, they should.
So we can find solutions for them, because there are struggles that are unique to them specifically, and we won't know unless they speak up or share those struggles, so we can find solutions.
No, I agree. They, not speaking up doesn't help with anything. But how do you get actually refugees to speak up, and especially if some of us who have not gone through such level of trauma, we still find ourselves really hard to actually speak up, or when we have issues. I'm just thinking about even maybe it's worse, but also could it be our culture as Africans that we actually don't know how to express ourselves in general? Yeah.
I think there's a big difference between the African culture and American. I know there is a big difference. But, okay, so you say, how can we speak up? One way to speak up is someone like me, for example. I grew up here. I went to school here.
Yes.
I feel like I a lot of the way I think, the way I act is influenced by this area, the culture, the Western culture.
Yes.
I am able to see these things and I'm able to speak up because I grew up in a culture where it's okay to speak up, where it's okay to say something's wrong when something's wrong, where maybe in the culture that we grew up, no, you don't speak up, especially maybe because you're a female or maybe because you're a child, you're not supposed to speak up. That's some of the cultures that we come from.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes when I speak, I'm not speaking. Okay, so I'm educating non-refugees, and I'm also speaking to people like me who moved here as refugees and who are growing up in this country, and their kids will grow up in this country, and letting them know, oh yeah, you don't have to do this because that's how things has always been for your culture or your generation, because you live in a whole different environment, and things are going to change for you, and your parents will one day. This is a harsh truth, but they will pass away one day.
That's right, yeah.
And so you have to think of your future generation.
Yes.
My kids will grow up in this country, and their kids will grow up in this country, and they won't be thinking, oh, I have to do things how my grandpa did things. Because the way my dad grew up as a child is totally different.
Totally different than,
As a child,
yeah.
It'll be totally different than how my kids.
Your kids will grow up, yes.
By verbalizing concerns, especially, and that's why, honestly, that's why I went into mental health. I didn't think I would end up in mental health, so this is interesting how it happened. But when I was doing my graduate degree, and I took this class that focuses on mental illness and diagnosis, and it just me being in therapy as well, opened my eyes, and it's also fun for me to talk about mental health with my family.
Yes.
Because one, they listen to me.
Yeah. Yes.
This is something I care about, and they love me, so they're gonna listen when I talk about something I care about. And it's also something I studied in school. And that's one thing I noticed about refugee as well. They value education. They value education. And when you are bringing evidence-based and discussions, they would listen.
Yes,
and if you bring facts and you show them this, they are going to listen.
Wow, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
That's a really great thing.
Yeah, I am fortunate to have been able to obtain education and to be able to study something that's not common in my culture, and to shed a light to mental health, and also to shine the light on how mental illness is affecting us. Post-traumatic disorder, for example. So when I talk to some, I don't know if I call them former refugees, because I don't refer to them as refugees now because they're Americans.
Yes. Yeah.
So former refugees.
Yes.
When I tell them, if I'm having a conversation and I describe, hey, so you witnessed someone being shot, that's not normal.
It's not normal.
Your brain, it's not normal for your brain to witness.
No.
Hearing someone screaming, being raped, and all these trauma, that's trauma, and explaining how that's stored in our body, and how it affects how we think and how we act and how we do things.
Right.
So explaining it and also personalizing it, I noticed that's helpful, and I'm able to get my point across. But I also noticed that there are terminology in the mental health field that is not able to be translated in some cultural languages.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
For example, just mental health, the term mental health, I don't know how to say mental health in my native language, which is Kinyarwanda.
No, I agree. Basically, some of the languages, they don't necessarily carry the terms that if you as a profession, you wanted to translate to Rwandese or Congolese or even or another. Yeah. So the vocabulary is not there, and then it gets harder.
It gets harder, and it also helps you understand why it's not a concept in their culture, why it's neglected or stigmatized, and why it doesn't really exist, because there's no term for it. So, for example, like depression, which is a very common mental illness. And yes, depression is a mental illness.
Yes.
And And mental illness is not scary as people make it seem.
Yes.
I'm not talking about mental illness today, so I won't go into that. But depression, for example, is the most common one. And a lot of people struggle with depression, and there are solutions.
The thing is, I think it's equally important if you want to pick something from like mental illness, just so that you can pass the point across, so we can help us understand why it's important that we take care of our mental health.
Okay.
Story.
I'm going to talk about, so for example, let's talk about depression, which is like a common illness that a lot of, not only refugees, but a lot of even immigrants, even Americans, like people in general, even kids.
Yes.
I work with kids, so depression is very common. And there's solutions to depression. Depression can affect your well-being, so eating, like your eating habits. Are you eating enough? Are you eating too much? Are you eating too little? Are you sleeping like 8 hours a day? Is your sleep interrupted? Are you just sad and hopeless? I like to describe depression as like having a dark cloud.
Yes.
Wherever you go, you just follow.
It's just following you, yes.
Wherever you go.
Yeah.
The world's just dark. And you feel like you have to force your smile. You don't feel like yourself.
Right.
Something's wrong, but maybe you can't put a finger on it because nobody has ever told you you don't know what depression is.
Exactly, yes.
You know what it is.
Yeah.
And the symptoms.
Yeah.
The solutions. You're not afraid of it.
You are able even to pinpoint and just say, this is what's going on. Yeah. And then if you have that awareness, most likely you also have awareness what you need to do probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, like one of the biggest symptoms of depression is just feeling sad and hopeless. And if you know that, hey, if I go to the gym today, I know for a fact I'm going to feel better after I work out. I know it's hard to get to the gym, but once you get there, you actually complete your workout. Nobody has ever regretted going to the gym.
Nobody. It feels good, yeah.
It feels good.
Afterwards.
Yes. It's hard.
Yes.
And then when you plan to go to the gym and you don't go, you feel even bad. You feel worse. Sometimes depression looks not being kind to yourself. Just negative self-talk and negative image too. Thinking you're a failure. Thinking you can't really trust yourself or you're not self-reliable. So depression has a lot to do with that.
Yes.
When you tell yourself, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow at 3, and you go to the gym tomorrow at 3, first you feel good for promising yourself something and actually doing it.
Yes.
And you worked out.
Yeah.
So you feel good. And when you feel good, it makes you want to do something else and something else. When someone is like falling into a depression and they pick it up really fast.
Yes.
And they know what they need to do to stop that spiral, it's helpful. So that's why we have to talk about these things so we know them.
Yes.
So we know what to do when it happens.
I agree. A lot of times, majority of people we grew up in Africa, right? Religion is so ingrained in us. Mm-hmm. And people would rather pray to Jesus or to God rather than maybe actually figure out what's going on. Is that something that you guys have seen happening a lot? Like people are not willing to accept actually what is happening, and they'll rather maybe see a religious leader to pray for them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's something we see a lot, even in the American culture.
Interesting, yeah. Yeah.
Even though mental health is a stigma in our community or the African community, it's still a stigma in the Western world.
I agree.
It's just maybe not as stigmatized. But even if we go to the Western world, like in different cultures, they have different stigmas. So for example, in the Black American community, the stigma might be great than the Caucasian community, for example.
Yes.
So we see a lot of that. And as a person who comes from that religious background where if something's wrong, you pray and you seek solution that way, in a way, you're limiting your creator or whoever you're praying to. You're limiting them by now using the resources that they have created.
Oh, wow.
Really.
Say that louder. Say that again.
When you are ignoring your mental health or mental illness, or just neglecting that part because of the stigma and because you don't want people to think you're crazy. And I'm putting in quotation mark because that's the word I hear a lot.
Yes.
Someone is having a meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
So they say they're going crazy.
Yes.
That's the word they use. They run to Jesus or God or whoever that they worship because if they go and seek help somewhere else, they feel like they're not being true to who they're, to their spiritual belief. But it's also important to understand that he's the one who created solutions. He's the one who provided therapy, more medication. Some people have to take medication to deal with these things.
Yes.
It can go as far as that. Your limit. When you told me to say it again, what I was saying is by not seeking solution, you're limiting him. You're limiting God or Jesus or whoever you're worshiping or praying to.
Yes.
By not using the resources.
The resources, yes.
Right? And it's similar to physical health too. If you break your leg and it's broken and you don't want to go to a doctor because you don't believe in medicine.
Right.
And you go to God or you pray about it because he's the answer to everything. Yes, he's the answer to everything, but also he provided that physician or whoever to help with the cure. And this person is educated, they are professional. They went through that process of being educated in this field, and you're not using, like, you're not going there. It's not, I don't understand. It's similar to mental health.
No, I think I get that point. Look, God provided a physician or a clinical psychologist or a doctor in order he can do healing miracle, or the mental healing miracles through that. Yes, God is all powerful. He can fix something just by a snap of a finger, you're right? But he has also installed people or institutions that will provide the things that we may need. And so when we pray, what do? Yeah, it's okay, you can pray. But after you pray, do something.
Yeah.
Go seek help from a professional.
Yeah.
Go and do, because that's somebody. It's somebody saying, Jesus, for those who are people of faith, say like in the last time you would say, oh, I was sick, you didn't feel me. And it would be like, oh, I did not see you, Jesus. But he would say, I was that person in the street. The same way Jesus is in the physicians. Jesus is in the clinical psychology. So all these resources, our God is in control of those, and he uses those as tools to bring healing. Yeah. That's what I'm understanding.
Oh, yeah, you got it 100%.
Okay, all right. So our people, please pray, but also go seek help.
Yes.
It goes where you can get the help.
Okay, yeah. I didn't add something to it.
Please.
I wasn't planning on bringing this up. About 5 years ago,
yes,
I was involved in a traumatic car accident, and I had just so many things wrong, and it was really tragic. And me surviving was a miracle in itself.
Yes.
So one of my biggest injuries was a traumatic brain injury, and that's the brain is so delicate and so powerful. And after my traumatic brain injury, I think that's also what inspired me to go into the mental health field, because I was just so fascinated by how the brain works.
Yes.
How just it heals, and how, honestly, how God can heal the brain. Because the science states that because this happened, this is what should be happening. Because Clementine shouted her C1, C2, she should be paralyzed from neck down. That's science. That's fact.
That's science, yes.
But then the neurosurgeon, but that didn't happen. That's a miracle.
That's a miracle. Like, how did it? Because yes.
And because of and there's so many other things, but God provided that neurosurgeon to be able to operate on my brain. And if he wasn't able to do that, I don't know if I would have made it. But the neurosurgeon is not the one who healed me.
No.
God healed me.
He healed you, because like in terms of their knowledge, you are supposed to be paralyzed, neck down.
Yeah.
But here you are, you're driving, you're eating, you're doing everything on your own.
I'm sane.
Yes.
And even if I wasn't paralyzed, they said I would be mentally incompetent, so not able to communicate, or not functioning at a age that I am, like functioning at a low level. And that also didn't happen because God provided psychiatrists, therapists,
yes,
psychologists, all these resources.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yes.
If I didn't have that medical need, that what I needed medically, then I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, even from your story, what I'm seeing is there were tools. God used the different doctors and the different profession in different areas. Obviously, there were places where they were not able, because as humans, we are limited. But I think where our limit is, that's where that's now he steps in and does his thing, right? And whereby the doctor maybe fixes something in your body, but then God does the rest of the work of making it actually. And a lot of times, maybe even the doctor will be like, wow, how did this happen?
Yeah. They call it medical miracle.
Medical miracle.
That's what they call it.
Okay, yes.
That's when you say, oh, it's God did that.
Yes.
A miracle. Even they don't know what happened.
What happened, yes. Wow, thanks for sharing that story. Yeah.
Of course. I wasn't planning to share it, but I would love maybe in the future to even share more about how he stepped in.
Yes.
And how he basically restored my life.
Definitely, yes.
I wasn't supposed to be here based on my injuries.
We'll schedule it, we'll bring you in and you can share. We'll go to those details. Yeah, we'll go to those details and I can learn a whole lot about what happened. But we are grateful that today you can be here and us, we can have a conversation. And so this should be an encouragement for not just refugees, but for anybody, any human being. Use the resources that are available. And if you're in a situation, you are not alone. There's always speak up if you need to speak up.
Yes. I also wanted to add something I've noticed in, I don't know if just the African culture, but in my culture specifically, maybe you can let me know too if you've noticed this, but the confidentiality is not there. Therefore, a lot of people don't feel like they're safe or they can be vulnerable to another human being.
Wow, that's a good point, yes.
Therefore, they don't bring up whatever they're struggling with because they're afraid of being judged, or being talked about, being targeted, whatever, discriminated against. It could be anything. So people suffer in silence. They suffer alone.
Yes.
And on the outside, they look fine, but on the inside, they are actually suffering.
Big time.
Miserable.
Yes.
Like you said, if you are going through any mental issues, you're not alone. And that's also normal. It's normal to feel depressed. It's normal to feel anxious. It's normal to wondering if you want to be here. I know it's scary, but it's normal to have those thoughts. And that's why there are solutions.
Yes.
There are solutions to that. So they started doing this in medical hospitals. So when you go in for a physical checkup, they do a mental health exam to see where you are mentally.
Yes.
So they'll do like a depression screening or anxiety screening. So asking questions like, in the last 2 weeks, have you felt hopeless, sadness, or have you felt like you're a failure, you're letting people down? And you answer not at all, some days, half of the days, or all the time.
Yes.
So based on how you answer it, the medical professional, this is where they are mentally. So let me refer them to a mental.
Yes. Yes.
So that's how we received a lot of our referrals. They come from medical providers. But in our culture, I noticed, because I used to be an interpreter as well, so I used to interpret these things. I asked, have you felt this way? And they're like, no. Like, denying it so fast and so quickly.
Yes.
Like, being defensive. Like,
yes.
Okay, it's just a question.
Right.
Calm down.
Yes.
Like, almost like it's a taboo. What I'm saying is...
Yes, because I feel like a lot of people don't want to be associated with mental illness for some reason.
But just because I asked that question doesn't mean, like, you are mentally ill. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe there's like already a trauma within a trauma of anything to do with, because in Africa we call people crazy. If they have mental illness, we call them crazy. And so as a result, like maybe out of that is like trauma on top of another one of some sort. And so that's why people just automatically are very defensive.
Yeah, they want to be as far away from that person that they know who struggles with that. They want to be as far away as possible.
Yes.
But just because you want to, it doesn't mean you are.
Yeah.
And also when you're educated more on that, you understand like why it's important that you're honest about that. Because the ultimate goal is for you to receive the service that you need. And we're so fortunate to live in a country that has these resources. The fact that I can go see my therapist and pay almost nothing. Now I have to pay because I have a job. But before, like I couldn't believe that I can just go to my therapist and they can help me, and I don't have to pay much and have access to a therapist.
Right.
There are countries where when there's nothing, there's no resources at all.
Yes.
But in West Michigan, we have resources, and there are other states and other cities that have more resources than your current place. But also, I'm not sure how many resources, mental health resources, we have available to immigrants or refugees or those who are from different cultures. I don't know how many resources we have because we cannot provide resources for issues that we don't know.
Right.
But the issues are there. I've seen them.
I think that in America, I feel like there's a lot of resources, and what I'm finding out is a lot of times it's just us who don't go looking for those resources.
Yeah.
If we just put a little effort, or if you talk to somebody, you can get connected to somebody else who can end up helping out. Yes.
Yeah. So I know I mentioned confidentiality is an issue. It's something that I've experienced and seen. So talking to someone that, I was going to say someone you trust, but some people have no one they trust, right?
Yes.
It's true. I don't want to assume that everybody has someone they trust. But going to an outside source, going to someone outside of your community, someone you don't typically talk to, and just being vulnerable and sharing with them, they will help. They will. And also, as therapists, we are held to a level of confidentiality. So
yes.
If you were to share, if you're a client and you share something with me,
yes,
I cannot tell anyone. There are laws that protect patients. Thing. There are laws in place to protect you, and some of us might not think that exists because we come from a place where there's no protection, there's no such thing. So there are laws. If I were to disclose your personal information, I can lose my job and I can lose my license, and I will never be able to practice anywhere else. Sometimes I have to share that with clients so they know. As a way to promise, hey, you're safe.
Yes.
And people are not going to share unless they feel safe.
And that's maybe one thing that people definitely need to know is that, especially if you go to see a therapist, like they are bound, as you said, by to that. Are there any circumstances whereby they have to share, like the therapists have actually to share? Are there any circumstances? They're like, okay.
Thanks for saying that, because that's really important. The only time a therapist can share confidential information is if your life is at harm. So if they feel like you're unsafe or another individual is unsafe, that's the only time
they will share.
They'll break that confidentiality. And I work with middle schoolers, so a lot of the time they wouldn't want their parents to know that maybe they're suicidal or they're engaging in self-harm, for example. But I have to let them know why I have to share with their parents that information.
Yes.
And why they should not be afraid of getting in trouble because they feel that way. So it's like you also have to have this relationship with them where they know that you want the best for them and that you are in the best interest. You don't want to get them in trouble. That makes sense.
That makes sense, yes. It makes a lot of sense, yes. And just out of curiosity, I did read an article someplace that said refugees are less likely to seek mental health or to see as mental health specialists. What's the name for them? Clinician, yes.
Mental health professional. There's so many terms.
Yeah, like they are less likely to see those professionals compared to Americans who have been here for longer, even though the refugee may have gone through all those traumatic experiences in comparison to the Americans here. Is there like an explanation to that by any chance?
Yeah. And that's true. Refugees or immigrants or non-Americans, they're less likely to seek mental health treatment than the average American. And one is the stigma, right? Like where they come from, that's not something you talk about, right?
Yes.
That's one. And two, again, they normalize their trauma. Like what they've been through is normal. And they should be grateful that they are alive and they made it this far and they finally in a country where they've been dreaming.
Yes.
So pride gets in a way too, that it's gonna look like I'm weak if I share that I've been struggling this way and I'm not a weak person. But that's not true. It's just a myth that they think if you're struggling mentally, it means you're weak. That's not what it means.
It's not, yeah. It's actually, it's a strength, right? Yeah.
Another thing I noticed too, the language barrier is an issue. Because sometimes those who are not English speaking or have limited English skills, they have to communicate through an interpreter. And sometimes there's that mistrust, right? The confidentiality. I don't want to tell this interpreter this because I don't want them to know.
Yes.
So the language barrier. So they say no right away. And they're not saying no to the provider. They're saying, no, I don't want to tell the interpreter this because I don't want them to know that I'm struggling with this.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and they feel like I'm not dying. So
yes, yeah.
I'm saying. Physically, right. You can actually show them like, hey, my arm is actually about to fall off. Help me. But with mental health, because you're sleeping 14 hours a day, they might think that, oh, that's okay. It's just 14 hours a day.
Right.
I'm still able to go to work and provide for my family.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I'm not feeling the best, but it's okay. So they also are dismissive of themselves. They don't care about themselves really, because when you say no to yourself every day, you have no self-respect, no value if you're neglecting yourself like that, if you're not putting your needs forward and getting the service that you need. And a lot of them never did this before. So it's a foreign concept.
Yes, definitely.
Someone and say, hey, I need help. And not being able to prove it.
Yes.
It's mental. It's in your head.
While you're in that point, if I'm going through a mental issue or crisis, right? I'm just wondering, at what point, where's the line when I can say, okay, I'm going through this, it's time to go see a specialist? When do people should start seeking help? Is there like a particular stage? I'm just curious.
I think that also depends on where you are in life, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's say, for example, I'm going to give you multiple examples. So let's say you are married and you have kids and you're going through a mental health crisis.
Yes.
You don't know when you should go see a therapist. Ask yourself this question. How is this issue affecting my life currently? How is it affecting my life? Is my relationship with my wife strained because of this issue? Am I not being a present father because of this issue? Am I not performing my best ability at work, at church, at this? If that issue is affecting things that you care about, that's one big sign, right? Also, are you happy with your life? How are you feeling? Are you feeling happy, or are you just sad 23 hours out of 24 hours of the day? When your alarm goes off in the morning, are you excited to start the day, or are you just regretting that God woke you up that day? Do you want to live life? Are you just getting through? Are you actually living? Are you living or surviving? That's the question that you ask yourself. So that's as an adult.
Yes.
Let's say, for example, me, as a person who's not married, I'm by myself. When I'm going through an issue, when do I tell myself, okay, maybe I should see a professional? So over time, because I've been in therapy for a long time, so I've developed coping strategies and strategies that help me that I utilize every day. To me, it's important that I love myself and I take care of myself and I trust myself. I want to be able to rely on myself and take care of myself. And those things are important to me. So I make sure that happens.
Yes.
When I'm getting to a point where I'm like, when I feel like I'm starting to have a negative relationship with myself, I'm starting to be a little too hard on myself. All of a sudden, I don't want to go to the gym. I'm not eating as much as I should or healthy. I'm not getting enough sleep. And I'm just telling myself, it's okay. That's a problem because it's starting to affect me in a negative way. And you can see, that's something that you can see. If you're fortunate and you have a partner or you live with someone that is able to see that they can also let you know, hey, I've noticed this, maybe you should. But if you live by yourself, you also have to be self-aware and know, okay, this is when I know that I need help. So you have to have the skills to be able to know.
Let's say I've decided to go to see a therapist, right? I know the symptoms of mental health, I guess, illness, or I'm still trying to balance when to use mental health and mental illness. What is a therapist going to do? Is he going to take my problems away? What are they going to do? Please.
That's a really good question.
Yes.
I feel like I feel like mental health therapists, we are so misunderstood. The other day, my sister was saying that someone that she works for told them that therapists just make problems worse for people, instead of making it worse. But okay, first, we have to know that therapists are educated professionals. They are qualified, and their strategies are evidence-based. So they're not just giving you their opinion or what they think. They actually it's a trusted professional. So when you go to your doctor, if they didn't go to medical school, you're probably going to question everything they do or say.
That's true.
So when you go to your therapist, it's okay to know where did they go to school.
Yes.
Also, therapists specialize in different things. So for example, when you are having a mental health issue, you need to know, even if you don't know, a therapist can help you understand what are you struggling with.
Interesting,
so
yes.
You can know who to go to. I was told that having a therapist is almost like a relationship or dating, because you go to a therapist and sometimes you might not click.
Interesting. Yes.
And one of our values, you have the right to switch a therapist with they're not going to take it personal. It's just like a provider when you go see a doctor and they're being rude or something's not, things are not working out. You have the right to switch to a new provider with no negative consequences. That's your right as a patient.
Yes.
So when you see a therapist and you're like, okay, you know what, things are not going. They are obligated to refer you to someone else. Okay, so when you go see a therapist, you can ask specifically what you want. So when I get comfortable seeing a therapist, I get to a point where I specifically wanted to see a Black woman, because I was just noticing I feel like it would be beneficial for me to see a therapist of color based on my experience.
Yes.
Also, it's important that this woman specializes in anxiety, for example, or ADHD, attention deficit disorder. So you go if that's something you're struggling with, so you want this person you connect to to be aware of that issue. Even if you don't know if there's what you're struggling with, they can help you determine
what it is.
Therapists diagnose you.
Yes.
When they diagnose you, they tell you what you're struggling with. And once you're diagnosed, they refer you to a specialist. So within the mental health field, there are different therapists specialize in different.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yes.
So there's a therapist who specializes in family therapy or marriage counseling.
Yes.
Or anxiety, depression, bipolar, even other mental illness like schizophrenia, big ones. There's different solutions for that.
Yes. Wow.
So once you have an issue and you are unsure, they can direct you to who you need to go to. And in therapy, therapists, they're not telling you what to do. They're not giving you even their opinion. So you have autonomy on how sessions are going to be. It's not just you sitting there and them telling you, you should do this instead of doing that. That's not therapy. They don't give you solutions.
No. Yes. So it's similar to relationship counseling, because I've gone to one, and I'm there, and the person I was dating, and they sit there, and how I felt to me was like they were guiding the conversation and helping us think through what we actually going through, but not necessarily offering solutions.
Exactly.
They help. I feel helping us, guiding us into finding solution, which means we do have solutions. We just do need to figure out how to get to those solutions.
Yeah, and having a professional guide you through that is exactly what you need, with no bias, no opinions.
Yes.
Maybe your mom or your pastor might have similar solutions, but sometimes the emotions can be involved in that.
Yes.
It can affect you in a negative way. But the beautiful thing about therapists, it's like a one-way relationship. That's what I call them. They serving you, you're not serving them.
I see.
And sometimes they ask you questions you don't want to hear.
Yes.
Sometimes you can get mad at your therapist. They ask you hey, maybe you have a problem with projection. Maybe you fail to take responsibility in this area. And if your partner was saying that, that would probably make you so upset. But your therapist is saying that, and this is a professional, and they notice patterns in people. Sometimes they just show you who you are. They help you show you who you are.
I agree. And even for the people who love football, not the American football, even American football, but I'll see somebody like Ronaldo or Messi, which are the people that we regard as good footballers of our time. those people, you may think that they don't need a coach, but they still have a coach. So what is the coach doing is he has a role. If Ronaldo is being coached, he has a coach. That means like we all need a coach of some kind.
And the coach is not better than them. They're playing.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, a good analogy. I like that.
Something that I was curious when I got here, when I said we can have this conversation, is something I've heard. I don't know if it's true or if it's wrong, but I've heard when majority of the refugees, I don't want to say majority, but some refugees families, when they come to America, there's a tendency of either buying a huge house, right? And I don't know if this is a stereotype or this is true. So if it's stereotype, please forgive me. I'm just trying to have a conversation here. They may buy a huge house, right? But then what happens is the parents, once they get the house, they want kids to contribute in to pay for the mortgage. So that means like kids go to school, but then they still have to go to work, contribute towards paying. I do understand that kids have to have responsibility in the house. But I'm just feeling like, man, I feel like to buy for the mortgage. If they don't, parents may not afford it because maybe they don't have a good job. So it's a family situation. But do you think that maybe worsens the mental health, particularly for the kids?
Oh, wow. I think I heard something like that too. They want to buy a house, but their income might not be large enough to cover because the child is over 18 and they finish school, meaning they graduated from high school, then they can go into the work field and they can help. A lot of it too is a miseducation about the school system too, because when we have kids, I call them kids even if they're 18, when they arrive to the US and they're being told, oh, you're an adult. You can go to school if you want, or you can go to work. I don't know a kid who will not want to go to work and make money.
Right.
Yeah, so it makes sense. So parents also, they encourage that, oh, you can go to work and you can help us pay your bills. It makes sense, and they're not doing that I don't think they're doing it out of malicious intent. They want the kids to succeed, and they want the kids to prosper in this country. But also we have to be aware that this is the first time they're navigating this, and they're doing probably the best they can and doing with what they know. They're doing the best they can with what they know.
Yes.
I see how that happens all the time. And also a lot of these kids when they go to college, for example, seek a higher education, it might be tough because they're probably the first person in their family to do that. In the American university, navigating them in the first generation, because I was the first generation, so navigating that can be tough.
Yes, I can imagine, yeah.
I wasn't required to contribute financially in the home.
Yes.
But some other kids are expected to contribute.
To contribute, yes. Yeah.
And they don't have the coach to coach them hey, maybe, or mentor, hey, maybe you should do this, you should do that, you should do that. Instead, the parents are the one coaching them, and that's all they know. That happens all the time. And yes, that contributes to their mental health, that contributes to mental health issues, because finances, probably the biggest mental health issue.
I agree, yeah.
Finances, and also working in a factory, that have to be tough.
Got to be tough, yeah.
Making almost not that much money and doing that, knowing that you're going to do it for the rest of your life, that's bothersome. So
it really, from just this conversation, I think when refugees come here, they are really at a huge disadvantage compared to people here.
Yeah, I don't see how they're set up to be successful. I don't see how. It's
probably not, because if parents start working, right, they're probably doing minimum wage. Let's say in the current market, probably making, if they'll probably get started with maybe $16, $17. And if this parent have kids, a family, it definitely will force both the parents to go to work. And maybe if the kids, as you said, they're above 18, maybe be able to also to go to work just to make heads meet.
Yeah.
So it's not they're willing. The situation is forcing them to have to do one way or another. Because then the program is only 90 days. And now you are left on your own in a strange new country where for a lot of people it takes years for them to really assimilate the culture. Yeah. That's got to be tough.
And let's not forget that these families are taking care of family back home too.
Exactly.
And the family back home is demanding money because they have a job and they actually have an income, where they don't have a job and they don't have an income. They feel obligated to also take care of their family. Obligation is also another big thing I noticed. Just because you're family, so you're obligated to take care of me. Because this, you're obligated. So it's really tough for you to break off as an individual and do something for yourself. And when you do something for yourself, sometimes we take that as being selfish and as a negative thing. But sometimes it's necessary. You have to take care of yourself so you can take care of your future. And sometimes it might require saying no.
Yes.
Even if it's hurtful. So that whole saying no, it's tough. Especially to parents.
It is tough. It's tough. And I feel like people have coined the term black tax. Seems like it's something that almost all Africans we have to go through, and families back home, they're not understanding. They can be really pushy. So
yeah, I don't think they'll ever understand unless they come here and go through the same thing we're going through.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know there's so much to cover, but is there like any sort of like remedies or a way going forward that you would encourage people, either refugees or non-refugees, because we really all go through mental health.
Yeah, of course.
But if you have like very specific for refugees, then good.
Okay, just me speaking to every human being in general, mental health is really important because that determines how you feel, like how you act, how you feel, how you interact with people. That all stems from your well-being, your mental health. So that's really important, and you have to take it seriously. So one easy coping strategy that you can do, even when you're driving, when you're eating, that's good for your mental health is mindfulness. And I know sometimes when people say mindfulness, we don't know what that means. So mindfulness is just like being present in the moment. So when you're having a meal, like right now when I'm doing this podcast, I'm not thinking about my bill that's due on the 17th, whatever. I'm thinking, right now I'm in this moment talking about coping strategies.
Yes.
And that happens a lot where you're here physically, but mentally you're either still back home.
Yes.
At 7 years old.
Yeah.
Back in your home country. Or you're in the future. You're never present. So mindfulness is being present, being in the moment, looking outside, recognizing those trees, seeing a dog and the dog on a walk, and noticing that. Noticing what you're eating on your plate.
Yeah.
So being mindfulness is just to be aware. That's important, and that's something that we can neglect all the time because we're always in a rush.
Right. Always, yes.
Which leads to misplacing things, forgetting, and the life is miserable. So mindfulness practicing, one way you can practice mindfulness, and I do this at work all the time with the kids.
Yes.
And they're probably tired of me doing it, but it's a way for you to be grounded, for you to just be in the moment, is naming 5 things you can see. Like in this moment, so I can say, oh, right now I see that headphones, a red exit sign, a phone that's on a tripod. I see my water bottle, and one more thing is I see an open door, a brown open door. Okay, so that's telling me I'm noticing my surrounding. I'm in the room.
Yes.
So it's called using your 5 senses. So something you can see.
Yes.
Something you can smell. Something you can hear. Something you can taste.
Mm-hmm.
That one is hard because sometimes you're eating candy, sometimes you're eating food, or your saliva, whatever. And what's other, or something you can feel.
Touch. Yes, touch, yes.
So I can touch the table, like the sensory. So using your 5 senses, they're not just here to just be here. They're here for us to use them. Let's use them in a way that's going to benefit us. So use your 5 senses. You can be driving and you're stressed, and you're thinking about that meeting you're trying to get to. But remember use your 5 senses to ground yourself in the present moment, so you don't run a red light, so you don't cut someone off, so you don't get into a car accident and make things worse.
Yeah.
So use your 5 senses. I find myself using that all the time. That's one of the things I learned early in therapy, and I use it all the time with the kids. It's really nice when you're being anxious and you notice like a faster heartbeat and you're getting hot, you're getting nervous and anxious.
Yes.
See, this is this. Also, another easy one is breathing. I know there's some religion, I think Buddhism, where breathing is a big part of their belief. The way you breathe, the nervous system, we can regulate our nervous system, which is cool. So when you're feeling nervous and anxious, and there's a way for us to calm our nervous system down, and breathing is one way.
Let me breathe.
Deep breathe. Like you can. So breathing
But
in your nose,
yeah,
out of your mouth.
it has a lot of calmness.
Yeah, and just like letting the air out slowly, and like doing it like 5 times. Oh, that calms you, especially when you're about to do a presentation.
Yes. Yes.
Just do that.
Yeah.
Even, the coolest thing, I used to do this in school, doing it in front of the people you're about to do a presentation to. Okay, you guys, I want to engage in a mindfulness activity before I start my presentation. Okay, everybody with me. Okay, close your eyes. Okay, 1 breath in your nose. Big breath. Hold it. Out of your mouth. Okay, we're gonna do it one more time. In your nose. Out of your mouth. Slowly. Calmly. Okay, now we can get started.
Nice. Yes.
Everybody's calm and they're present. So maybe someone in the audience was thinking about picking the kid up after daycare.
Yes.
The husband maybe did this in the morning.
Yeah.
The aunt, blah, blah, blah. But now everybody's present and you're ready, they're ready, and you're about to present. Everybody's good. That's something so little that can make a big difference. And I'm someone who struggles with anxiety, and all those are little things I learned in like the last 5 years that I've been seeking professional therapy. That has been helpful. Just coping strategies, that's what we call them. And sometimes I call them tools, and every single human has a toolbox, invisible toolbox.
Yes.
And you want to collect tools. So I can ask you, hey, Sika, what's in your tool? Oh, I have 5 senses. There's different type of breathing. There's butterfly breathing, there's monkey breathing. So many breathing techniques that you can do.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
We gotta have to come. We gotta learn those as well. You said there's butterfly, monkey.
No, I don't know there's monkey, but there's a lot of breathing.
Yes.
Butterfly for sure. But there's so many breathing techniques that you can do to regulate yourself. Meditation is really important too. And sometimes with meditation, it can be controversial sometimes but meditation is prayer, if you really think about it. Because meditation, it can be seen as a non-Christian practice for those who are Christians, so they don't want to meditate because it's not Christ-like or Christian. But prayer is meditation because you're sitting in conversation with God.
Yes,
and
I agree.
About you, but every time I pray, I feel so much better.
Yes.
Much better. So prayer, however meditation look like for you, meditation is so important. It could be going to the beach and sitting down and just like listening to the waves. That's meditation. Or just like closing your eyes and try to like focus on one thing, or pay attention to your brain and see how fast it's switching topics, jumping to different things, noticing how fast your brain is going. That's meditation. It's just slowing your brain down. Because our brain works over time.
I agree with you, because the other day I was listening to a book and it said that we have about like 50,000 conversations in our head. I don't know in a day or in how long, but that's a lot. So you are so right.
Oh my, thoughts or conversations? Because if you're having conversations by yourself, I don't know, that's worrisome. But I think I heard something like that too. Like we have so many thoughts throughout the day. And negative, positive,
Yeah, we really go into a meeting within ourselves. So yesterday I was driving right in a neighborhood and I didn't know it was ice. And my car started skidding. I lost control. And so because of it, it was going sideways. And so the way it was turning, so I looked and I was like, there's a mailbox, and beyond the mailbox, there's a tree. So I had a conversation within a split of seconds that, oh man, I'm gonna run over that mailbox, and then most likely I'll hit that tree or probably spin my car this way. I had that conversation within myself. Yeah. Likely like it spin 360 and then face the same direction I was going. I was so happy after that. I was like, oh, thank you, my head Joes, who are protecting me. But yes.
So conversation, but your thoughts and conversation within yourself.
Yeah, within your thought,
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna share like a couple more strategies that are easy.
Please.
Physical activity is so important. You don't have to have a gym membership to do physical activity. Some people think that, but that's not true. You can literally go on a walk outside, like a 5-minute walk. If you don't like walking, you can do a 3-minute walk.
Yes.
Just time yourself, do a 3-minute walk. You can just stretch in your home. Even if you're not sweating, it feels like you didn't do that much. Just taking the time to stretch. Something with your body. It could be taking a cold shower. I know that one is hard.
Or ice bath. Yeah.
Physical activity like jumping jacks, something, or you can get those 2-pound weights and just do 10 of these, or have an accountability partner. So physical activity, I promise you, even if you're someone who wants to be physical but isn't, just try to force yourself to be physical for like a week and see how you feel about it. I promise you, you're going to like it and you're going to want to do it more. And it gets easier.
Yes.
By the way.
Yes, as you keep doing it.
Yeah, I used to think there's no way I'll ever get to a point where I'm regularly going to the gym. But now, I'm at a point where I'm like, I didn't think this was possible to get to a point where I'm going to the gym and I'm actually excited to go. Where before I was crying.
Yes, yeah.
And also I made promise with myself that I'm going to get this gym membership. It's expensive and I don't want to waste my money. So I'm going to pay for it and I'm going to make my money's worth. And that's what I've been doing.
Wow.
That really helps.
Yes. Wow.
Sometimes I have to do that. Yeah.
Just before even you go to the next one, with the being active, does it have to be scheduled or it can be random? For it to be effective, do I have to, let's say, I won't be going to gym 7 in the morning and be consistently 7 in the morning without doing, today 7, the other day at 3 p.m., the other day, 9 p.m. Or it doesn't really matter? It doesn't matter. Yeah. I know there are benefits to having a consistent schedule. That's like another thing for another day. Being consistent in your workout. Yeah. There are benefits to morning workouts versus evening workouts. There are different pros and cons to that. But just making sure that you engage in a physical activity at least once a day or every other day. Yes. Anytime. I think you can start there. There are different levels to physical activities, right? There are people who want to push themselves to that type of level where they're waking up at 5 a.m. and going to the gym and doing this specific thing at the gym. That's another level. Those people, I admire them. And there are people who just need 5 minutes to stretch. Yeah. That's an accomplishment. Yes. Yeah. Or some people, they have a dog. In my case, having a dog has helped me with mentally and physically too, because he requires to be walked every day, no matter what. No matter the temperature, rain, shine, I have to walk him. Yes. And there are days where I don't want to. And it's dangerous to walk him in the snow because he's huge. He's 97 pounds. He's a big dog. Oh, that's a big dog, yes. But I have never, ever regretted taking him for a walk. After a walk, I feel good. He feels good. Even if I'm drenched in rain, I feel good knowing that I took him for a walk, so I'm being a good dog mom. I take care of my mental health by walking and being outside. Yes. So even just go outside. If you don't want to go for a walk, just be outside for 5 minutes. Because a lot of us spend so much time inside, especially now that technology is basically taking over. We just spend a lot of time inside. None of us are going outside. You mentioned that. I kind of reminded there's a level of responsibility. A responsibility of I have to walk Rafiki. Or I have to go, let's say for the people who do deliveries like Amazon, it's a responsibility. There's now something they call Amazon Flex, whereby me as a sick, I can just decide, okay, I'll go to work today. And if I had something scheduled for today, it's snowing like crazy, I still have to go. So there's a level of responsibility. I'm responsible to deliver these packages. And so it gets me outside. And then I'll be like, in a normal day, there's no way I'll go outside. And then I'm outside there and I do my thing and I come back, I was like, it wasn't that bad. Yeah.
because you feel better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I said, nobody has ever went to the gym and come back and regret going.
I agree.
Unless you went to the gym and did nothing. Unless you went to the gym and on your phone the whole time, then you feel bad.
I agree. Yeah.
Another coping strategy that's really important for everyone is just social support. Being a part of a community, having friends. I know
Yes.
some people say I don't need friends, I'm okay by myself, or I don't need a man, whatever. Just being a part of a community, being a part of a social community that you trust, that could be church, that could be a book club, that could be a class at the YMCA, like every Monday at 5:30. Maybe you have a
Right.
yoga class.
Yes.
That's community, other people. It's every human being need to belong. Like we have a need to belong. And if that's not present, we don't feel good. We feel disconnected. You feel alone. So being a part of a community or having a friend, if you don't have friends, like how can you make friends or how can you be a friend? That's another thing that we don't talk about enough. Just the importance of friendships, of healthy friendships.
Yes. Yes.
And the last one is self-care. Taking care of yourself.
Yes.
Self-care is talked a lot about, so it's often just neglected or not really being thought about much. But self-care is so important, like taking the time to do your hair
Yes.
or brush your teeth. I know that's basic things, or some people can go like a day without showering because they didn't have time. It can be valid.
Yes.
But so making time for yourself to shower, to brush your teeth. And since those are really basic, and people will probably say, who doesn't do that? That's everybody do that, but some people don't. Okay, so we can take a step further. Okay, if you're a woman and you like to do your makeup, making time for that, making time to actually do your makeup or wear the earrings that you want to wear, take the time to wear the outfit that you want to wear, and not always in a rush, and saying no to people and prioritizing yourself. And if you're in the middle of eating and someone calls you and they need you right away, even if they do, it's okay to say no. Hey, I'm feeding my body right now.
Yeah.
I can do it at this time or
Yes.
this time.
Yes.
That's okay, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. You might feel bad at first, but you shouldn't feel bad about taking care of yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of others. So you have to, in therapy, we say you have to fill your own cup first to pour into others.
Into others, yes.
And if you cannot pour from an empty cup, you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
So, and those who try to pour from an empty cup, those people are dangerous in a way, because for me personally, it's hard for me to trust you or rely on you if I feel like you don't trust yourself or rely on yourself. If I feel like you're not taking care of yourself, how can I believe that you're going to take care of me?
That's true. That's true. Because most likely, like the same standard I'll apply to myself, I'll apply to you. So if they are low standards, then definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my last one.
Yeah, so this is like good, last but not the least, because there's this analogy they keep people we use all the time of the plane when they say, oh, something happens, put the mask on before you assist someone else. Yeah. So I think those are great coping skills. And I really hope that people will be able to hold these truths, because they are really truths, and embrace them, because embrace mental health. Because it's not a bad thing. It's just we have to take care of ourselves, both physically and mentally. Learning how to say no when it is necessary, prioritizing yourself. Obviously not in a mean way, but like knowing when to say no, and I'm going to take care of myself for now. So those are really great things.
I like to share this for my Christian brothers and sisters who might be watching, because I use this in my Christian community too, about self-care.
Yes.
That as Christians, we are commanded to love ourselves. I know as a Christian, when you're loving yourself, you feel like you're being selfish, and that's Christ-like, selfish. But Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself.
Yes.
Which means love yourself too. So some people don't love themselves.
Yeah.
And they actually hate themselves. And they feel like if they love themselves, that's selfish. But it's not selfish. And the Bible says to love yourself, love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't love yourself, you cannot love your neighbor.
That is so true. Yeah. Yeah.
Simple. You have to love yourself.
So I think the reason why people try not to love themselves is because they feel guilty.
What's a command?
They feel guilty and because they feel like they are selfish.
Yeah. And there's a fine line between like selfish and loving yourself too. So it can be a lifelong journey. That's something we work on every day. Nobody has their life together. I don't have my life together. You don't have your life together. Every day it's a lifelong journey.
I agree. Yes.
We learn about ourselves. There's things we like and dislike. But self-care and self-love and positive self-image, they're so important. And I cannot emphasize enough how important they are. And there are those of us who grew up in a community where they teach us to not prioritize ourselves and our needs are not important and you don't matter. Yes, they don't say it that way, but they imply it.
Yes.
But you have to fight for yourself and treat yourself with kindness, because how you treat yourself is how others will treat you. If you neglect yourself, others will neglect you. If you disrespect yourself, others will disrespect you. But if you love yourself, others will love you. If you respect yourself, others will respect you. And when they don't, you set a standard, okay? You set a standard of how others treat you.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
No, you're so right on that. We come to an end of this. Unless there's anything else you want to add, you are the expert. If there's something like this, I gotta mention this.
I'm not really the expert. I've been in this field. So I just graduated 2023.
Yes.
So like I'm new into my field and I'm really excited, and yeah, I'm just excited and I have so much to learn and there's so much I don't know. I'm just sharing what I know so far. And if there's one thing I have to just say at the end of this podcast is I would highly encourage you to just try it. You know, there's so many things that I said you might not agree with. There's so many things that Sika said that you might not agree with. And you might have a valid reason not to agree with it, but just try it.
Yeah, give it a shot.
Give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, at least you tried it.
Yes.
At least you tried it. If it doesn't work, at least you tried it. That's all.
Yes, I agree. I do agree. And also, some things need encouragement. So if you are near somebody who knows or you can sense that maybe they need some help in the area of mental health, it's okay to nudge them. Hey, consider this, and maybe tell them the benefits of it. Maybe give them also maybe the resources. They say, you're not crazy. This is normal. Yeah. It's okay to talk to somebody, and there are people who can help you navigate this thing that seems to be so big. You may realize it's just not that big.
Yeah, and I think it will also be beneficial to obviously share some areas that you can go to seek these mental health services in the community. If you live in Grand Rapids and you have no clue where to even start, if you would like, where to go if you want mental health services. So first, just communicate with your healthcare provider, your doctor, nurse, or whoever your healthcare provider is. Just let them know, hey, this is what I need. Even if they're not able to give you those services, they can direct you to a place where you need services. If you are a parent and you have a child who you think need mental health services, we have Network 180 where we call them the mental health gate.
Yes.
Or gatekeeper.
Yes.
So you go to them and you tell them what your child is struggling with. It could be anything. It could be maybe your child is not following legal rules and is going to jail and being locked up. Like big things like that. You can go to them and they're the one who determines which services in the community will be beneficial for you. If you're going through some relationship issues, they can also guide you to places in the community that you can go to. And there are so many clinics like Cherry Health, Catherine's Health Center, where they work with people who might not have insurances or have low income and might not be able to afford therapy. And they have income-based where they charge you based on your income or they charge Medicaid.
Yeah.
Just all that. And if you have to share my contact information for someone who might have more questions, I'd be more than happy to guide them.
Yes.
And where they might need to
go
get those services.
Yeah, definitely. If anybody needs help from Clementine, maybe to find where those resources are. If you don't know Clementine, this podcast, you can direct message me and then I'll connect you to Clementine. So you can get the help that you need. Definitely, yes.
One more last thing I want to say.
Yes, please.
Guys, you have to subscribe to Isika's podcast. Honestly. I don't know why. Wow, did you say 75% watches and they're not subscribing?
About 73, 75.
Why not subscribing? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Come on. First of all, this is an amazing idea to be able to have conversations with people like me who come from an African background and who are in this new country. So this is like building a healthy foundation for the future.
Yes.
This is the future.
Yes.
So it's really important that you subscribe and that you share and that you invite people and comment.
Yes.
You want comments too?
Exactly. Comments as well. Yes. Yeah.
He's not going to read your mind. You have to let him know, hey, Sika, we want you to have a guest who can talk about this. And maybe you can even have a spot where they can submit anonymously. Maybe they don't want their friends to see that they commented about this. So just talk to Isika, guys. Come on.
Thanks so much for coming. This is really helpful. I'm just happy that I could have you on the show. Do you have social media people?
I don't have Instagram, but Rafiki does.
Ooh, yeah.
But I just got back on Facebook. There was a period where I just got off social media after my car accident.
Yes.
For my own mental health and other reasons. But yeah, I have a Facebook, Clementine Security, and Rafiki has an Instagram. I forget what his Instagram is, but it's okay. You don't need to follow it. But if you want, if you like.
Wait, do you mind them following?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they want to follow along, yes.
His Instagram is funny and it's fun.
So I'll put down here in the...
Okay.
I'll put it somewhere down here.
Okay.
Yes, in the video, yes. So
yeah, it would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm in the community and I'm very social and I'm open and I like helping people and I like to communicate. And if I'm not able to help, I'm going to make sure I connect you with someone who can help.
Good. Awesome. So Clementine is free to see people and to hear people who need help or at least some guidance of some form. So don't shy away. Thank you so much. And for now, we say bye-bye. Kwaheri.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.